Çok teşekkür ederim Fatoş Hanım. Teknolojinin ucunda olup aslında bizim hikayemiz birbirine değen, birlikte yarattığımız bir hikaye. Ben de bugün sizlerle onu paylaşmak istiyorum. Vodafone'da çok özel, çok güzel bir dönemdeyiz biz. Hızlı büyümemiz devam ediyor ve yaratıcılığımızın da sınırlarındayız diyebilirim. Bu önemli bir dönüşüm ve önemli bir kültürel değişim. Ve aslında çok da tesadüf değil. Ben sizlerle bizim sistemimizin ve bunu nasıl yarattığımızın hikayesini paylaşmak istiyorum. Bu sene baktığımız zaman bizim gelirlerimiz geçen senenin aynı dönemine göre %28,8 büyüdü. Ciddi bir büyüme safhasındayız. 6,2 milyar TL toplam mobil gelirlerimiz var. 21,6 milyon müşterimiz var Türkiye'de, mobil müşterimiz. Ve pazar payımız da 35,9'a ulaştı. Tabii ki işler her zaman böyle değildi. Vodafone'un Türkiye'deki hikayesi aslında, şöyle devam ediyorum. Vodafone'un Türkiye'deki hikayesi 2006 yılında başladı. 2005'te Vodafone pazara girdi. Daha öncesinde siz de bilirsiniz bir Telsim ve TMSF dönemi var. 2006'da başladığımız zaman aslında sıkıntılı bir dönemle başladık. Ve 2009'da bizim pazar payımız %18,9'a kadar düşmüştü. Ve pazarda 3. operatördük. Dolayısıyla Vodafone'da işler çok iyi gitmiyordu. Müşteri şikayetleri de yüksekti. 2009'da ciddi bir yönetim değişikliği oldu. Bu yönetim değişikliğiyle beraber farklı bir ticari strateji, pazarlamaya farklı bir bakış açısı geldi. Yani çok daha müşteri odaklı, müşteri ihtiyaçlarını anlamaya yönelik bir bakış açısı ile beraber aynı zamanda akıllı şebeke yönetimi ve akıllı mali bir yönetimle beraber 2009-2012 arasında Vodafone inanılmaz bir U dönüşü yaşadı. Ve biz 2012'de pazar payımızı %28'e kadar çıkardık. Tabii bu çok özel ve çok farklı bir dönemdi. 2012'de herkesin aklında şöyle sorular vardı. Vodafone gerçekten bu büyümeye devam edebilir mi? Bu sürdürülebilir bir büyüme mi? Yoksa gerçekten sıkıntıda olan bir şirketin hani bu can havliyle her şeyi bir araya toplayıp hızlıca agresif bir şekilde yarattığı bir pazarlama stratejisinin sonucu muydu bu? Bu böyle bu şekilde devam edebilir mi? 2012 ve 2014 arası bizim bu büyümeyi içselleştirdiğimiz, yapımızı oturttuğumuz, kültürümüzü oturttuğumuz ve bunun sürdürülebilir olması adına yaptığımız yatırımları güçlendirdiğimiz bir dönemdi. 2014'e geldiğimizde Vodafone tabii çok hırslı bir şirket, çok genç bir şirket, çok dinamik bir şirket. Biz bu büyümenin aynı şekilde devam etmesini istiyorduk. Hatta kısa ya da mesafeli değil, ufak ufak değil, hızlıca büyümek istiyorduk. Çok daha fazla büyümek istiyorduk. Yaptığımız şeylerle tatmin olmak istemiyorduk. Bunu yapabilmek için bizim bir finansal stratejimiz vardı. Ve ciddi bir stratejik bakış açımız da vardı ticari olarak. Ama kültürel bir stratejimiz yoktu. Bugün benim size biraz timle anlatacağım aslında başlattığımız kültürel stratejinin hikayesi. Biz tabii diğer multinational şirketler gibi pek çok değerimiz var. Yani bunlara da Vodafone Way değerleri diyoruz. Neyi nasıl yapacağımız belli. Kültürel bir takım ayak izlerinin sonucuyuz burada. Ama bizim değerlerimiz, bizim birbirimizle nasıl konuşacağımızı, birbirimizle nasıl anlaşacağımızı, hangi dili birlikte kullanacağımızı çok fazla bize göstermiyordu. Bizim daha pratik şeylere ihtiyacımız vardı. Nasıl bir araya geleceğiz, birbirimize neler söyleyeceğiz, nasıl anlatacağız ve bunları sürekli yeni gelen, sürekli değişen organizasyonumuza, sürekli büyüyen organizasyonumuza nasıl işselleştireceğiz? Aslında biz hep beraber bunu yapmaya çalışıyorduk. Öbür taraftan kişisel olarak da ben de bir insan kaynakları direktörüyüm ve uzun zamandır hem bireysel gelişimi hem de organizasyonun gelişimini hayal ediyorum. Ve bireysel olarak hem kendim gördüm, hem de pek çok çalıştığım arkadaşımda gördüm. Bir şeyi çok arzu ettiğiniz zaman, bir şeye çok inandığınız zaman, bunun için çok çaba sarf ettiğiniz zaman hiç hesapta olmayan şeylerin bir araya geldiğini görürsünüz. Siz bir şey yaparsınız, bir şey daha bir araya gelir. Sonra 2-3 şey daha bir araya gelir. 1, 2 olmaz. Artık 5 olur, 6 olur. Ve dersiniz ki ben bunu hayal etmemiştim bile. Bu nasıl bu kadar büyük bir şey oldu? Benim hep istediğim şey bunu bir organizasyon olarak yaratmaktı. Aynı hedef için, aynı inanılan şey için bir organizasyon tek yürek gibi bir araya gelebilir mi? Üstelik bu kadar hızlı büyüyen bir organizasyon, aslında biraz da yorulmuş, hep hırslı olan bir organizasyon bu heyecanı koruyabilir mi? Hep bunun arayışındaydık. Ve bir gün gene tesadüfi bir şekilde işte o 1+1, 2, 3 bir araya geldi ve Jim ve Tim'le tanıştık. Onlar da bize bu kültürel değişimin, kendilerinin daha önce yaptığı değişimin hikayesini anlattılar. Ve Vodafone'la da bu yolculuğa çıktık. Kendisi daha detaylı bahsedecek ama ben de size neler yaptığımızı da kısaca bahsetmek istiyorum. Bu değişim programının içerisinde biz bütçelerden konuşmaktan vazgeçtik. Önümüzdeki senenin hedeflerinden konuşmaktan vazgeçtik ve dedik ki her şeyi yapabilecek olsan, her türlü imkanın olsa, hiçbir kısıtın olmasa hangi olasılığı hayal ederdin? Ne isterdin? Kendin için, kendi işin için. Bunu gerçekten çıkarabilir misin? Bunu düşünmeye başlayabilir misin? Amaları bir tarafa bırakabilir misin? Bunu isteyebilir misin? Hem kendin için, hem organizasyonun için, hem ekibin için. Sonra dedik ki, bir şeyler söylüyor birileri. Gerçekten inanıyor musun? Gerçekten inanmıyorsan söyle. Cesurca söyle. Ben buna inanmıyorum. Bence bu olası değil. Benim farklı düşüncelerim var. Bu arka plandaki düşünceleri öne koyun dedik ve cesur olun. Bunların hepsini dinleyeceğiz. Çünkü organizasyon olarak dinlemeyi öğreneceğiz. Bunları bastırmayın. Ve bunda bir kötülük yok dedik. Yani söyleyebilirsiniz. İnanmıyorsanız da söyleyebilirsiniz. Ama aynı zamanda neye inandığınızı da söyleyin. Sonra dedik ki birbirimize geri bildirim verebilmemiz lazım. İyi niyetli bir şekilde. Hepimizin gelişmesi için. Saklamadan. Bir şeye inanmıyorsak bunu söyleyebilmemiz lazım. Açık ve dürüst olmamız lazım birbirimize. Birbirimize karşı gerçekten açık ve dürüst olabilir miyiz? Bu iletişimi birlikte kurabilir miyiz? Ve birbirimizi gerçekten dinleyebilir miyiz? Sonra dedik ki, bunun İngilizcesi breakdown, Türkçesini aksaklık olarak çevirdik ama bir şeyler yanlış gidiyor. Bir planımız var, bir programımız var, bazı hedeflerimiz var ve başından itibaren bunu zamanında bitiremeyeceğimizi biliyoruz. Bunun mümkün olmayacağını da biliyoruz çünkü bir şeyler ters gidiyor. Bunu son ana kadar beklemeyelim, en başta söyleyelim. Diyelim ki burada bir problem var. Elimizi kaldırabilelim ve korkmayalım. Bunun bir beceriksizlik, bunun bir başarısızlık olmayacağını bilelim. Bir aksaklık var demek, ben bunu yapmak istiyorum ama yapmamın önünde bazı engeller var demek. Bunu yapabilir miyiz? Ve birisi böyle dediği zaman, bak gördün mü işte beceremedi falan demek yerine hep beraber bunu nasıl yapabiliriz? Birlikte nasıl yapabiliriz? Ve son olarak dedik ki, biz buna Merlin dedik. Çünkü Arthur büyücü Merlin'le karşılaştığı zaman Merlin onu bekliyormuş ormanın ortasında. Ve Arthur da demiş ki, Kral Arthur, sen nereden biliyordun benim buraya geleceğimi? Ben çünkü gelecekteydim ve seni gelecekte bekledim demiş. Biz de herkese dedik ki 2017'de en iyi halini hayal et. Mesela ben en iyi Pınar, işte en zayıf, en fit, en akıllı, en hızlı düşünebilen. Ve bunun olabilmesi için 2016'da ne yaptın? 2015'te ne yaptın? Bunu hatırla. Dolayısıyla 2017'de o en iyi Pınar ol. Bugünden. En iyi pazarlama departmanı ol. En iyi sen ol. Ve o en iyi sen nesin ya da o en iyi ekip nedir ve o en güzel başarı nedir? Bunu bugünden hayal et. Ve oraya nasıl geldiğini düşün dedik. Bunu yapabilmek için de hep beraber böyle 3000 kişi bir arada olduğumuz, senede bir yaptığımız toplantıda CEO'muz çıktı. O zaman pazar payımız %30 civarındaydı. Koca bir gazete çıkardı. Şimdi gazetenin ismini görmüyorsunuz. Ve ilk sayfasını bastık. Dedik ki Vodafone Türkiye'nin pazar payı %35. Tarihini de koyduk. Tarihi de 2016 idi. 2016 Mayıs'ıydı diye hatırlıyorum. Sonra herkese dedik ki bunu nasıl yaptınız? Bunu nasıl yaptığınızı anlatın. Bütün departmanlar bunu nasıl yaptıklarını, tek tek hikayelerini bize gönderdiler. Ve bütün gazeteyi doldurduk. Nasıl yaptıklarını anlattılar. Bugün bizim pazar payımız 35.9. 2016 bile sürmedi. Peki bunların hepsinin sonucunda neler oldu? Biz yaklaşık 6 senedir, yani 24 çeyrektir çift taneli büyümemize devam ediyoruz. En çok tercih edilen operatör konumumuzu uzun zamandır koruyoruz. Data gelirlerindeki büyümelerimiz çok hızlı. Son çeyrekte %140 arttı. Ve biz dedik ki bizi aslında bizim konuşmalarımız, bizim lisanımız, bizim dilimiz belirliyor. Kim olduğumuza kendimiz karar veriyoruz. Ve bu konuştuklarımızla bu kültürü yaratıyoruz. Böyle dedik ve 2015'te Great Place to Work, Türkiye'nin en iyi işvereni seçildik 2000'in üstü kişide. Şimdi son olarak Tim'i çağırmadan evvel biz herkesi hayal etmeye, geleceği yaratmaya nasıl heyecanlandırdık? O videoyu sizlerle paylaşmak istiyorum.
2020'de bizi neler bekliyor? Herkes bir dokunuşla istediği bilgiye ulaşacak. Doktorlar hastalarını anında uzaktan tedavi edebilecek. Anneler evde olmasa bile yemek yapabilecek mi gerçekten? Aslında ne güzel olurdu. Artık kimse hasret çekmeyecek. Çünkü uzaklar çok yakın olacak. Teknoloji, hayatın her anlamında bir parçası olup insanlara umut verecek. Bakış açımız sandığımızdan daha fazla genişleyecek. Trafik diye bir sorun olmayacak. İnsanlar gitmek istedikleri her yere rahatça gidecek. Eğitim herkes için eşit olacak. Otobüsler artık tam zamanında gelecek. Elbise dolabın sana bugün ne giymen gerektiğini söyleyecek. Bir telefon sevdiklerinizin hayatını kurtaracak. Ve bu teknolojiye her zaman, her yerde çok hızlı ve kesintisiz ulaşılacak. Peki gelecek gerçekten de herkesin hayal ettiği gibi mi olacak? Evet, tüm bu dijital dönüşüm Vodafone'un sağladığı geniş bant teknolojisiyle senin sayende olacak. Çünkü hayalleri gerçek yapacak güç sensin. Türkiye'nin geleceğini sen yazacaksın. Ben Vodafone'um. Ben liderim. Geleceği ben yazarım.
Teşekkür ederim. Sağ olun.
Günaydın. That's the extent of my Turkish. So as Pinar has been talking about, we're the ones who actually are the people that have to deal with all of this change. So all of the change that's happening happens with human beings. So in the next little while, I want to share with you some of the ideas that Pinar has talked about with regards to what's happened with Vodafone and what has happened with many other companies. But really, we're talking about how do you navigate in a world of accelerating change. You know, this conference is all about managing change, and we're the ones that actually have to begin to navigate. How do we do that? Some of the ideas that I'm going to talk about are very simple ideas, but they can make a profound difference. Maybe you weren't planning on coming and thinking a lot today. You were going to just take in information. But I'm going to ask you to really start to think about certain things. perhaps in a bit different way than you have in the past. Our approach is really, what is a transformational leader? One of the ways to think about this is in traditional leadership, the plan determines your commitment. In transformational leadership, the commitment determines the plan. So you begin to make those ideas become a reality, but part of it has to do with really creating something. And I'm not just talking about creating a big goal and then seeing how you can accomplish it, but really working with people in your organization to really come up with what could we really do if it was possible. Pinar had talked about that with regards to the Merlin. One of the other things, it says here that leaders generate and produce a positive mood, right? That it's about the future, but looking at it from a different reality. I'm going to ask us to challenge our own reality today and what we think of ourselves and what we think is possible. But it's not just leaders that need to produce a positive mood. It's all of us need to be able to produce a positive mood, because there seems to be something that happens when people feel good about themselves, people feel positive. And I think it has more to do with not just positive thinking. It's really about the power of our own conversation. So I want to share with you some different ways of observing organizations and human beings where the unreasonable becomes the new normal. So if you think about it, I'd like you to imagine and think about this, that you and I act perfectly appropriate to the way that we see the world. So Hyundai, what? When I throw that to Hyundai, Hyundai's actions are perfectly appropriate to a slow-moving orange. Now, if I were to throw this like this to Hyundai, would Hyundai do this or would she do this? What would she do? She would do this. So I'm asking you and I to think about, we act perfectly appropriate to the way we see the world. So your actions are perfectly appropriate to the way you see the world. Now, if you can begin to see the world differently, you can begin to take different actions than you could in the past. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about is, how do we begin to shift that? So if we act perfectly appropriate to the way we see the world, what is it that has us do that? I'm going to suggest that it has everything to do with the conversation that you're having. So does everybody know the little voice in the back of your head? You know the little voice that you have in the back of your head? Now, if you don't, it's the one that said, "What little voice?" I don't have a little voice. Is he crazy? So that little voice is the thing that navigates and has us take the actions that we take. So our view of transformation is that transformation is not changing the circumstances. The circumstances are going to be the same. It's changing our relationship to the circumstances. So that when we become a different observer, if we can see the world differently, we're simply going to be able to take actions that we couldn't take with the previous seeing. And it creates different choices and possibilities. So with this new thinking, we're able to see new possibilities, we're able to take new actions, we're able to perform and produce different results. So this is really about taking a little bit of a journey. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of what we call the distinctions and practices of transformational leadership. But in the beginning, I'd like to just set the tone with two main contexts. And that is that, the future can happen to you or because of you. And this is really about the future happening because of you. Not becoming a passenger, but becoming the driver of change. So we need to think differently in order to change the unchangeables. What are those things that we don't think we can change in our organization? So we want to begin to look at, we have a mindset about the way that things are, the way that we actually view reality. So a leader's job, and perhaps not just a leader's, but all of us, our job is to really create reality. Newton had a different reality than Einstein, yes? You can do certain things. If you want to go to the moon, don't use Newton. If you want to build a house, don't use Einstein. So we're familiar with the idea of different ways of looking at things, if you will, different paradigms. So this is probably something that maybe you've never even thought about. But I'm going to ask us to consider that we have the ability to create reality. I'm not talking about making up stuff. But one reality is based in the past, is that it's common sense, it's conventional wisdom. You know, you do what you do because of the internal processes, mental models and feelings that you have, because of the past, including whatever you got from your genetic DNA. I got a few pounds of my genetic DNA. Or we often feel that our choices and actions are limited by circumstances and situations beyond our control. That's normally how we think about our own reality. And given the amount of change that's happening in the world, we need to begin to find different ways to navigate. And one of those is, most people here are familiar with the power of a vision. You know, this is really about being future determined. And that future is determined by what you are committed to. A lot of our work has to do with the ability to be able to commit to something before you know it's even possible. That's one of the things that I think great leaders do, is they actually commit to something before they know that it's possible. And they begin to engage people. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end, because I think that when we as people commit to something that we don't know how to do, oftentimes it inspires us, because we can't just use what we've done in the past to accomplish it. We need to invent, we need to create. So a different way of being able to think about this is that it's, rather than from your history, it's from what are you committed to. Most everybody in here knows that in an emergency, your level of effectiveness is increased dramatically, yes? If there's an emergency, you don't need another program, you don't need another workshop, you know, that we actually increase our effectiveness when there's an emergency. Now, the difference is, or the thing about an emergency comes from the outside and makes you change. I'm going to ask you to think about the cousin of emergency is urgency. Urgency comes from within and goes out. And urgency around what we're committed to. When you create certain commitments and you're serious about them, it creates a certain sense of urgency. So just like with the orange with Hyundai, is that you and I can act appropriate to see the way we see the world. If we can see the world differently, we're simply going to be able to take different actions. You know, most everybody here, I'm sure, is familiar with the word paradigm, that we actually see things through our structures of interpretation or our paradigms. When we begin to look at things differently, when we're open and we're not so closed, and it has a lot to do, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, it has a lot to do with the way you and I listen. And that we're suggesting that you always have a choice in terms of how you respond to anything that happens to you in your life. So you're not a victim. You always have a choice in terms of how you're going to respond to certain situations and circumstances. What happens when you begin to examine this is that from a history-driven perspective, it's more like an object. I mean, you can get into it's a lot longer conversation, you know, from Descartes, starting from him, to, you know, that human beings are a thing, versus that human beings are really a possibility. And I'd like you to also think about today, you know, like what's really possible for you? If you could do anything in your organization, if you could do anything in your life, what would that be? Because often we put these self-limitations onto ourselves. And again, I'm not talking about positive thinking. I don't think positive thinking is bad, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the power of our own conversation. So, because of the rate of change, right, we all know that the world's moving as fast as it is, we can no longer trust our predictions. You know, depending on who you talk to, knowledge is doubling every 1 year or at least every 2 years. So what do we do with that? How do we begin to work and navigate, as I said, in this world of accelerating change? And I'm going to suggest that some of the tools that we've used are not as reliable as they were in the past. So we need to be able to, you know, our traditional paradigm in business is we predict, we plan, and we control the outcome. That's what traditionally what we've done. And you can do that in a slow-moving world. But when the world is moving as fast as it is, we need to add something else to our old paradigm. Again, especially if there's any finance people here, we're not going to get rid of this. But we need to add something else. And we're calling that sense, commit, and create. Sense, to start trusting our intuition more. If anybody has an iPad here, thank heavens that somebody actually trusted their sense. If you go back to when the iPad was first created, where they did research. They went out and they asked people, what do you think about this, etc. And the research came back and said, this is a bad idea, you shouldn't do it. Now, especially if there's researchers in the room, I'm not saying research is bad, okay? But I want us to realize that what happened there was somebody actually had a sense that this would be a good product, a good thing. Now, the other thing that they realized is we are asking people about something that they don't know anything about. So of course they're going to come back with perhaps a negative perspective. We have to begin to commit to things before we know that it is possible. If all you do is commit to the things that you know are possible, the future is going to look pretty much like the past. And then we begin to create pathways to fulfill what we're committed to based on our sense of what's possible. So, I want to walk you through or talk about 8 of the key distinctions and practices of transformational leadership. One of the main elements in the beginning is it says changing your language to change the culture. I'm going to ask you to consider that if I wanted to find out what the culture was in your organization, what I would do is I would go around and I would talk to people, right? I would attend meetings, I would listen to them, I would get away, I would go to the cafeteria, I'd hang around the coffee machine, and I would begin to get an idea about the way that it is around here. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? I would actually realize how it is around here. So this may not be something that you're familiar with, and maybe you are, but the idea is that where the culture lives is it lives in our conversations. That if you want to change the culture of your organization, you need to change the conversation. We're going to talk about one very simple thing that you can do. I really wanted to have this be able to make a difference to you. And that's why we're going to share some of these, and in a short period of time, we're talking about transformational leadership. What I don't want you to be doing there is sitting there going, okay, transform me. I'm probably not going to be able to, I don't transform you anyway. You transform yourself. But in a half an hour, just to be able to give you some of the ideas that we're working with. So again, changing the culture, changing the conversation changes the culture. So the first one is where we shift uncommitted speaking to committed speaking. Look, when you go back to what Fatush had talked about in the very beginning, all of this change that's happening, all of the things that are happening with technology happens because of people. We're the ones that are creating this. So if we want to be able to create speed and efficiency, that's why you create a common language. If any of you work in information technology, you have a common language. If you work in sales, you have a common language. If you work in marketing, you have a common language. And that common language is for speed and common understanding. When you call up the help desk and they say reboot your computer, they don't have to go through all of this whole process of what to do. You know what that means. So if our conversations are going to make a difference, one is to begin to shift them from being uncommitted to committed conversations. So if I say to you, let's talk about that next week. Now the chances of us talking about that next week, or let's go for lunch next week, the chances of us actually doing that next week, who knows whether or not it's going to happen. But it's a lot different than if I say, can we meet at Wednesday at 12 o'clock and talk about this? The chances of us doing that are greater because when I make a request of you, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about making requests and promises. You know, how do we navigate? We navigate through promises and requests from each other that we rely on. But we need to sharpen our language if we want to compress time and we want to get things done in a quicker manner, and I think in more of a humane manner. So we shift those conversations that are casual or uncommitted to committed conversations. That's the first one. An example of that is shifting and transforming complaints into requests. So how many of you here ever complain about things? Okay, the rest of you are saints. Yes? Okay, now, if we're honest, right, who do we complain to? Right, who do you complain to? If you have a complaint, like let's just say you didn't like your level of compensation, you know, who do you complain to? HR. Who else do you complain to? Friends, family. My mother used to say, when she was alive, she said, we'll complain to anybody that'll listen. Now, the thing is, if you and I are having a cup of coffee and you don't like your compensation, you might complain to me, yes? Because I'm an anybody, right? So you might complain, but would you ever make a request of me to do something about your compensation? No, because I can't do anything about it. So one of the things that makes a huge difference is to begin a simple thing that you can do, you know, in your own organizations is just stop complaining and making requests. You know, where we literally have a symbol like the no smoking, no complaining. Now, I even have people do an exercise. I ask them for 2 weeks not to complain about anything professionally or personally. And people are like, But now think about this. Do you think I'm asking people not to talk? No. I'm asking them, right, to transform those complaints into requests. Many people that we've worked with, you know, I've been doing this now for the last 35 years. I started when I was 2. For the last 35 years, find that this is incredibly valuable in their home life. Because a lot of times we make hints to our husband, wife, girlfriend, or boyfriend rather than making a request. I mean, I could give you many, many examples of that, but in the interest of time, I'll move on. You know, the next one is really, we become authentic by shifting what we're saying, bringing our background conversations into the foreground. What that means is, many of you have been in meetings, and I'm just going to ask you to pretend, now many of you won't like this, but I'm going to pretend you're the sales organization of a company, okay? So this is our sales meeting. And I say to you, and I'm the sales manager, and I say to you, you know, we sell chairs. And I say, I need each and every one of you, in order to make what we're going to do, in order to make our target, to make our commitments, I need you to sell 1,000 chairs this quarter, right? And I say, are you all with me? And everybody goes. Yes. And then I say, are you sure you're with me? Yes. I could get like one of those people in the United States, that little country below ours. I could get, they get even more evangelical. Are you sure you're with me? Right? And everybody goes. Yes. So you're saying, absolutely, Tim, you can count on me. Simultaneously, there's another conversation going on in your head, yes? That's what we call the background conversation. Now, which one of those, you know, because the background conversation is, I've never done that before, I can't do that, he must be crazy, what's he drinking, you know, whatever it may be. But the background conversation is very present, yes? Now, which one of those conversations shapes your actions, the foreground or the background? The background's the one that shapes our actions. But what do we hear most of the time? Foreground. We call that a recipe for disaster, right? Because if you're saying one thing, thinking and doing another, you're being inauthentic. So a very simple way to be able to do this is you create a practice. You simply have people be able to say in meetings, and Pinar talked about this a bit, be able to say in meetings, raising their hand and saying, I have a background conversation. Now what that signals everybody is saying, look, I'm not against you, I'm not against the idea, I just have a question. Now the first time it might be a little difficult, but the next time it's a little easier, yes? Then the next time it's even easier. The next time, eventually, what happens to these two conversations? They become one, right? That's called being authentic. Now listen, I'm not saying that what you need to do is to say everything that comes to mind, right? Some of your background conversations are not very useful. Just shut up about it. If you don't like my jacket, it doesn't make any difference to our performance. You know, if you don't like a person's hairstyle, that might be your background conversation. That doesn't make any difference to forwarding the action. So you clear? This isn't about saying everything. It's about saying those things that we don't normally say. Because look, I think all of us have experienced this. For every one meeting, there's always 3 meetings, yes? There's the meeting before the meeting, where you kind of talk. I don't mean the planning. I mean, listen, so if they ask us to do this, just tell them yes. There's no way we're going to do this, but just tell them yes, okay? So then that's the meeting before the meeting. Then there's the meeting itself. Blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, people talking. Then, very interesting, there's another meeting that happens afterwards, yes? Yeah, and where does that meeting happen? In the hallway, in the bathroom, by the coffee maker, right? Now, what conversation takes place after the meeting? Which one? The foreground or the background? The background conversation. Now, because then we talk, look, I think they're crazy. There's no way. I've never even seen 1,000 chairs, let alone sell them, right? So if we can create a culture of how do we take the conversation that usually happens out in the hallway and get that into the meeting room. Why? Because it increases speed and adds to innovation. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable sharing some of the stupid ideas that they've got. You know, we create what we call breakthrough projects, and we make sure that we have some people that know nothing about the project. Why? Because they can ask the silly, stupid questions that nobody else will ask. But it oftentimes opens up new possibilities. So, simple thing that you can put into practice, I got a background conversation, beginning to take those background conversations to the foreground. I mean, it's such a powerful tool. The next one is we practice what's missing versus what's wrong. This is such a simple linguistic change because usually when you ask what's wrong, it brings up fear. When you ask what's missing, it brings up possibility. Now, unless you're really committed to punishing somebody, right, you're going to ask what's wrong and continue to go down that path. But if you want to get things done, ask what's missing. Whenever there's a breakdown, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, whenever there's a breakdown, what's missing in order for us to have this happen? So, I'm inviting you. I don't have any right to do this, but I'm inviting you. Try on not complaining for a couple of weeks and making requests. Try on, shifting your conversation from what's wrong to what's missing. The next one is probably one of the most powerful, and it's what we call generous listening over an already listening. So, if I say the words Bill Clinton, what's the first thing that comes up for you? What's the first thing that comes into your mind when I say Bill Clinton? Monica Lewinsky, right? Now, you notice I didn't have to say, okay, in a moment I'm going to talk about blue dresses, cigars, right? I say Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky shows up, right? Now, that's just to give you an idea about what we mean by an already listening. It's already there. What stops many of us in our organizations from accomplishing things is we don't think it's possible because we have a historical view of it, an already listening of whether it's possible or not possible. And we need to generate a generous listening. What's the difference? An already listening is all based in the past. It's your stereotypes, your prejudice. It's an automatic response, just like Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky, right? There's another kind of listening that you generate. It's a generated listening. You have to do something, and it's much more generous. I'll give you an example of this, and then I'm going to have you do a little exercise. How many people have ever attended a concert, like a rock concert? Okay? It doesn't have to be rock, but it's just something that I particularly like. Matter of fact, I had the experience this summer. Vodafone puts on a series of concerts, and I went to some of them. And, it's amazing because you can actually see what happens when... Here's the premise. The premise is your listening shapes people's speaking. So when you go to a concert and the audience starts singing the lyrics of the song and really getting into it, do you get a better performance from the band? Of course you do. Now, how would you apply this into your organizations? What if you went in to a presentation? Everybody here goes into presentations and people in their company, and we kind of sit there and judge and evaluate whether or not this is a good idea or not. What if you went in having a generous listening, where you went in already being a yes, already being aligned? I'm not going to say that you agree with everything. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that you change the way you listen. So I'm going to show you how powerful this is. I'd like you just to get a partner. Just get a partner. You may not know the person next to you. Just get a partner. Hopefully, even if you need to have a group of three, have a group of three. Okay? Now, pick an A and a B. It's a big discussion, right? Okay. Now, here's what I want you to do. A, I want you to speak about something that you are passionate about. Maybe it's your children, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your house, maybe it's your job. I want you to speak about something that you are genuinely passionate about, okay? Now, B, here's your job. I want you to listen, no matter what they say. I want you to listen from the perspective, man, is this boring? All right? So A, speak about something you're passionate about. B, man, is this boring? Go. Okay, stop. Now look, if you were A, what was that like? Terrible, right? I mean, look, in the interest of time, it's not very comfortable. If you're the speaker, you don't feel like talking more, do you? So again, I just want to point out something that I don't think we've necessarily looked at in the past, that the way we listen generates people speaking. Now, we could switch and do the same thing again, but I want to switch and do something else. This time, we're going to switch. B, you're going to speak about something that you're passionate about, okay? Now, A, your job now is to generate a generous listening. Listen for possibilities. Listen for commitment. You begin to generate a different listening, okay? So, B, speak about something you're passionate about. A, your job is to listen generously. Go. Okay, just finish that up. Just finish that up. Just finish it. Now, you notice the first time I said finish up, it stopped right away. You notice how this one. So if you were A, what was that like? Or B, if you were B, what was it like? It's a little bit different, isn't it? Now, the only thing that happened is people changed the way that they listened, and everybody knew what you were doing, but you get the same effect. So again, shifting the way we listen can alter the way people speak. All right, this is probably for me one of, I've become a huge fan of Ataturk. I've been coming here for the last year and a half. And, the thing about listening is listening we do with our minds and our eyes. Hearing we do with our ears. This is such a powerful, powerful image of, in Ataturk providing a very generous listening. All right. The next one is we're committed to being responsible for more than we're accountable for. In the interest of time, I'm just going to talk about the fact there's a big difference between what you're accountable for and what you can be responsible for. In most organizations, the head of the organization is both 100% accountable and 100% responsible for everything. In your organization, you are accountable for something. If you're not a student, you probably are going to be working somewhere at some point in your life. You are not accountable for everything in your company. But you can be responsible just like the CEO or the managing director. What does that mean? It means the ability to be able to respond. Because you and I can respond to anything. What I think makes great organizations is where people be responsible for more than they are accountable for. And I'll be around today if you want to talk about some of these. Again, we're not going to be able to get into this to the depth. But this is probably one of those ones that really changes the culture more than anything. Pinar had talked about this. When you make big commitments, you're going to have breakdowns. Breakdowns are a stop in the action where you go, I have a breakdown. Because you think that you're not going to be able to accomplish it in the amount of time that you said you were going to accomplish it. So you declare a breakdown so you can discover what's missing, not what's wrong. And then lastly, that we give constructive feedback that's future-driven and results-orientated. It's what we call straight talk. Straight talk is saying it the way that it is. It's not harmful, it's not hurtful. It's just, an easy way to realize how valuable straight talk is. If you've ever had a performance evaluation, what do you go to work on? The good things that your boss says, or the things that are missing and the things you need improvement on? What we do, it's nice to hear those good things, but what we do is we go to work on those things that that person says we need to improve on. It's a straight conversation. And when you can create an environment of straight talk, it's amazing what happens. So in closing, there's a few things about, I'm going to suggest leadership, is that leadership is about creating reality. It's about walking the talk, a new level of personal responsibility, committing to something before you know it's possible, or committing to something beyond the drift. The drift is the kind of normal thing that'll happen unless we start making those big commitments, and being authentic. See, maybe our job is to inspire people, not motivate them. And oftentimes people are inspired because they're taking on things that they don't necessarily know how to do. But when people are inspired, they seem to be self-motivated. So, we're witnessing a time in history when things are moving faster and faster. It's not just that things are changing, but the world in which they are changing is changing as well. So we're in the midst of a lot of managing change. In closing, I'd like you to do something. Change your conversation, you change the present. But more importantly, you change your future. Go back, change your conversations, change your future. Thank you very much.